Well, hello and welcome. This is Lady Christine Carmichael Foster, and I am so glad to be with you all today. We are welcoming you to our very first segment on the Health and Wellness channel of Total Health Transformations. We have been taking a journey on getting healthy, and we started with our weight, as many have been watching us, and we're just so elated to be able to encourage other people to do the same, to get healthy. However, we wanted to do it and take it just a little bit further and make it total health and wellness. So it's not only just about your weight, it's about all areas of life. There's so many areas in our life that we need to be healthy. And so tonight, or on our show, we are going to be talking about our first segment of Total Wellness. So I have a special guest in the studio with me, and she is a licensed professional of clinical mental health, a nationally certified counselor, and the Chief Executive Officer and owner of Resilient Soul, LLC. This is a private practice that provides outpatient counseling. Mrs. Walker has worked in the mental health field for over 10 years and provided counseling for over 7 years. She has a special interest in working with individuals struggling with self esteem issues, anxiety, and depression. She is passionate about assisting and encouraging and supporting individuals and families to function at their highest potential in order to create a society fully capable of withstanding life's challenges. So it gives me great honor and a privilege to bring to our show and in our studio with us today, Brandi Walker. Won't you welcome her with me?
Hello.
Hello, Brandi. Welcome.
Thank you so much. It was a pleasure. I'm glad you asked me to join the show today. And I'm excited about the topic.
Thank you so much. I am so glad that you were able to take time out of your busy schedule to join us here on the network. You're one of the first people I thought about as I started thinking about this total health transformation. As I said earlier in the broadcast, we started with weight and just losing weight in the natural, but there's a lot of weight we need to lose, kind of like spiritually or just in life, things that we have endured that have
Yeah.
sometimes affected us.
Hmm.
And I thought one of the first things that I thought we really could deal with today, and not only today, probably more than once
Of
with
course.
is mental health.
Hmm.
And the first person that came to me was Brandi Walker.
Yes. Yes.
Yes. So, Brandi, tell us how, first of all, you got started with,
Hmm.
even this mental health, how you got started in this business.
Yeah. So, growing up for me was very, um, mainly it was my dad, honestly, that kind of inspired me to get into this field. And of course, as a kid, I didn't know what mental health was. I didn't know what
Right.
anxiety was. It just wasn't talked about.
Mhm.
And so as a kid, watching my dad kind of deal with his own struggles with drug addiction and things of that nature. And
Mhm.
then after he had passed and learning that he, dealt with some depression, for me, I'm like, wow, that was eye opening to me because
Mhm.
for me, it's like, if only he had, was connected to some services such as
Mhm.
counseling, to help with the mental state, then he wouldn't need the use
Right.
of drugs to help him cope with
Mhm.
those unpleasant feelings of being depressed.
Right.
And so I remember going in high school, there was a teacher. Um, whose main focus was to help guide you on, what you wanted to study when you got into college.
Mhm.
He asked me if I wanted to work with individuals or if I wanted to work with groups of people. I told him individual. So he said, psychology is probably the way you want to go. And so that's what I did. Got my degree from Dell State in psychology, and then I just went on
Mhm.
to get my master's from Wilmington University in clinical mental health counseling. And so my dad, his struggle was probably that was the influencer for me. because it made me realize that there's so many other people that are probably struggling with the same things, and then just
Right.
kind of getting into the field and learning that, yeah, drug addiction is just simply a method of coping, just like a lot of different things that we do, whether it's
Right.
spending money all the time,
Mm-hmm.
um you know other addictions that people may
Right.
have,
Mm-hmm.
to cope with whatever feelings they may have, because sometimes most of us haven't been taught on how to deal with different emotions that
Right.
we're going to feel.
Mm-hmm.
Whether
Right.
it's sadness, anger,
Right.
anxiety, we just haven't been taught how to cope with those feelings. And so my dad, watching him go through that, not really understanding as a kid what was going on, but then getting that knowledge after his passing. And honestly,
Mm-hmm.
I think it honestly was years later that
Wow.
I found that out, and it was just like, wow. Like, and even now I have that on my website, under my bio, that
Mm-hmm.
for him, if he had known, or if he had received some counseling services for him, for his own self,
Right.
he would have been able to learn the skills to positively cope with those different feelings. He would have been able to heal himself from things that he might have been carrying around and just didn't know how to deal with them or how to express them. Because that's another area that I've learned, that many people, we feel these things, but we have no idea how to put words to them. We have no
Right.
idea as who to
Mm-hmm.
go to about them. So my dad's experience was the main thing that motivated me to get into this field, just to be able to help other people cope with different things, with the understanding that life is gonna throw its twists and turns,
Right.
and
Mm-hmm.
we have to be able to cope with
Mm-hmm.
those things so that those twists and turns don't take us out of here.
Right. I definitely agree. That definitely more people need to have these resources. We all need them. I
Mhm.
mean, all of us need to have an avenue
Yeah.
of where we can talk to someone
Mhm.
about what we're going through. And I think a lot of times why people don't do a lot of talking is because they're not always trusting, you know, uh,
Yes.
whether individuals can hear what I'm saying
Mhm.
and they're able to listen, share with me, but also protect me at the same time. And
Yeah.
so many of us will refrain from sharing what we might be
Yep.
going through just for that main fact. So,
Mhm.
it's like, I'm not telling anybody because they're not going to understand it. Or if I say something, then it's going to be shared here and there.
That's right.
So I know in your profession that has to
Mhm.
be probably like HIPAA,
Yep.
is very, very important in
Yeah.
that field.
Yep, and that's exactly what's explained, and with any, when you're first starting counseling, that should
Mhm.
be explained the very first session, the very first appointment, that
Right.
everything is confidential,
Hmm.
unless you're talking about hurting yourself or hurting somebody else, then we have a
Right.
duty to, warn
Report
who
it.
we need to.
Hmm.
Yeah,
Hmm.
but and I think that's sometimes where it takes a lot of courage for people to make the call, to
Right.
seek help for various different reasons. I think
Hmm.
there's definitely a stigma when it comes to mental health services. People don't
Right.
want to be labeled crazy. They don't want to feel like they are this crazy person, but that's
Right.
not what it that's not what it is
Right.
at all. It's just a
Right.
simple fact of life gets hard, and
Hmm.
sometimes we don't have the skills or the knowledge, of how to navigate or heal from the
Hmm.
things that we just experienced. And so
Right.
sometimes that's when the therapist can come in and help you make connections between
Hmm.
experiences that might have taken place in childhood and your current functioning, and how we can change that together. Um,
Right.
and I love therapy just
Hmm.
because it's not the fact of me telling you what to do.
Hmm.
Um, it's us working together to determine what's going to be best for you.
Right.
And what are you, feeling, and me helping guide you to dig a little deeper so that we can get to the root cause of some of the things that you feel or issues. But through the process, you start to learn more things come to the surface that
Right.
you might
Mhm.
not have even realized. Um,
Mhm.
so confidentiality is definitely a big thing.
Right.
And we can get in a lot of trouble should any information get
Right.
out, documents or anything like that. And I think that that's part of what makes going to counseling a safe place, because
Right.
I can definitely understand not wanting to tell people your information, because
Right.
like I described
Mhm.
to other people and the way I even feel about my own information, our information and our stories, that is fragile and it
Right.
should be
It
handled
definitely is.
delicately.
Mhm.
And you don't know how some people don't know how to handle things delicately.
Mhm. Right.
And
That's true.
so, at the end of the day, at least going to a counselor, that they're bound by law to protect their
Right.
information, um,
Right.
and keep, all your identifying information private. So
Mhm.
I think that provides a level of safety for people to be able to come in, lay their stuff out there, and walk out
Mhm.
feeling a little bit lighter.
Right. And that is so important. I as I've been kind of doing some of my shows, as
Hmm.
I said, you are the very first guest on this particular show of health and wellness. But in some of my other shows that we do, I have always pioneered and stated that the
Hmm.
importance of us paying attention to the way we feel. And sometimes it's
Yeah.
really hard when
Yeah.
it's really hard when you really all the time don't really know what's actually happening or sometimes where it stems from. So it's
Right.
like being you in a forest of trees,
Yes.
and it's through each thing you're having to cut down a tree and cut off some of the leaves so that you can begin to make your way through the maze of life.
Yeah.
Okay, where is this coming from? And
Yeah.
it's so many places that
Hmm.
things can come from. Either sometimes they're things that maybe actually really did happen, or
That's right.
sometimes it's our feelings behind
Yeah.
what we thought was happening, and
Hmm.
just being able to decipher between all of those things and having that safe place to be able to share it. I think
Right.
key one is just knowing that you can trust whomever it is
Mhm.
that you choose to share with. And I think that's a lot of times why people stay uh, behind closed doors or in the
Yeah.
darkness of their life, because
Mhm.
they're afraid that if I share this with you, you may not see me as who I am, you know,
Yeah.
when all actuality we are all just people.
That's right. That's right.
We're all human beings, and we've all been through something,
That's
and a lot of
right.
times they are similar in nature, but
Mhm.
we don't know it because we haven't actually shared those things.
Yeah.
So um, I think it's good that society is pushing us all
Oh,
more to
yes.
being open and to
Mhm.
share a little bit more about what's happening with you. My husband had said something to me, and you all know him as Uncle Wayne.
Yeah.
Um, you know, he had said something to me. Some of the people know him as Bishop, but he had said,
Mhm.
a lot of times that people are really drawn on. If you think about those that you listen to,
Yeah.
who are you? Why do you listen to them? What
Mhm.
makes you drawn to them? And usually it's because of their story that they
Yeah.
shared, where you felt like, okay, they understand. I could
Yeah.
probably, talk to them. I feel like they are me. And so
Mhm.
it's very important that we can kind of break down those walls. And sometimes it starts in a counseling session
Yes,
where you break
definitely.
them, break them down and become comfortable with who you are, and
Yeah.
where you've been and your story. And then you can begin to share, it in a way that is healing, you know,
Yes.
not in a way that's detrimental to others, but a
Mhm.
way that's healing to you, and I think a way that will also be healing to others.
Yes.
So
Yeah.
I think the healing process has to start with us first before we can
It
actually
does.
share it. You know,
It
because
really
if
does.
yeah, so if we share before we're healed ourselves, then a lot of times we end up hurting people because,
Mhm.
and although that's not really your intention, you
Of
know,
course not. Yeah.
yeah, it's not really your intention, but because you're still dealing with it yourself,
Yeah.
um, and you haven't really kind of like worked through all of
Mhm.
those trees, then a
Yeah.
lot of times we come out, then it starts to be something else, and that's what we all want to do, this healing. So you were saying that you really like to work with those who struggle with self-esteem.
Mhm.
Um, explain to, I mean, we all know on the surface what self-esteem is,
Mhm.
but
Yeah.
maybe give some scenario.
Uh-huh.
I know you know how to do that without divulging or
Yeah. Mhm.
messing with your businesses, but just kind of helping somebody else that may be watching
Yeah.
that may not realize that what they're struggling with is self-esteem.
Yes, yeah. So self-esteem is essentially how we feel about ourselves.
Mm-hmm.
And the amazing part about that is because through all my schooling, self-esteem was not a big thing mentioned. You hear depression, you hear the anxiety,
Right.
schizophrenic like you hear all those other disorders, but
Right.
self-esteem is like almost like the foundational piece that influences a lot of those other disorders, because if
Okay.
your self-esteem is low, then typically, if you walk into a place and you feel like everyone is kind of looking at you. So
Mm-hmm.
for you, if you feel like, I'm not confident enough, or I'm not pretty,
Right.
that's a common one. I'm not pretty.
Right.
I don't think I'm pretty. If you walk
Mm-hmm.
into a place, or if someone even makes a comment about, oh, your shoes are really nice, and
Mm-hmm.
you say thank you, but
Right.
your mind, because your self-esteem is so low, and you
Mm-hmm.
already have that belief that you are not pretty, you're
Right.
going to question, well, why didn't they mention anything about my face? Why
Right.
didn't they mention
Mm-hmm.
anything about how beautiful I am? They
Mm-hmm.
commented my shoes, and that becomes that skewed perception. And so when I say self-esteem is about how we feel about ourselves,
Mm-hmm.
that can really, there's a lot of influences that help create that belief about ourselves. And
Right.
so a lot of that can even stem all the way back from childhood.
Mm-hmm.
So things that parents may say to children, if a kid is always receiving, don't do that, or stay away from that, or if they're
Mm-hmm.
always getting these negative statements, what they
Right.
can't do, or they did something wrong and stuff like that, then they can begin to create what we call a core belief within themselves, that I'm not good enough.
Okay.
And the issue with
Mm-hmm.
these core beliefs that we all have, they begin to skew. I reference it as a prescription lens,
Hmm.
because that becomes the way we see ourselves, that becomes the way we see others, and that becomes
Mm-hmm.
the way we see the world. So if I'm not good enough, then I'm going to feel that way about myself. I'm going to feel that way when people interact with me, no matter how much people may say you're this
Right.
wonderful person. The fact that I believe that I'm not good enough, I'm still going to maximize the negative
Right.
statements or
Mm-hmm.
the negative experiences that take
Right.
place. I'm going to maximize that because I need those things to reinforce my belief. And I'm always going to discount or minimize or even not even acknowledge the positive. It's always going to be a
Right.
but. It's not going to be,
Mm-hmm.
oh, thank you. But it's always going to be that but
Right.
behind there. But a lot of, our self-esteem, it gets created, through
Yeah.
childhood. And
Very
so,
early.
yeah, very early on.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, us as parents, we don't, and people always say parenting does not come with a guidebook. There's
It
no
does not. It does
you
not.
just have to find you find your footing, you try your
Mm-hmm.
best. um some people don't try at all. And
Right.
so all of that has an impact on us as individuals. It has an impact on how we see ourselves. And if
Mm-hmm.
we're not told, I've had plenty of clients that I work with now who they may not have gotten, whether it's attention, may not have gotten told, just how beautiful they are as
Right.
children, may not have got received a lot of hugs or any of those affection. And so
Mm-hmm.
as they grow up, then they kind of, that makes them very self-conscious about themselves. It makes them very
Right.
self-conscious and very doubtful about their own abilities, their appearance, which
Mm.
manifests, I always say it really manifests itself in adulthood. You'll see some signs and symptoms like in childhood, of course,
Right.
but
Mm-hmm.
when you get out there on your own and you have to, interact with other people and get into relationships and the
Mm-hmm.
workforce, then you can really see some of those things just kind of come out. And so that can turn into, someone being promiscuous because they didn't
Right.
receive certain attention before.
Mm-hmm.
Or it could be, even though a person is clearly loved, they still
Right.
don't feel loved
Right.
because of the way they're portraying themselves based off of the messages that they received in their childhood. And
Right.
so
And
it just continues to
wow.
manifest as
Mm-hmm.
adults. And so
Mm-hmm.
then the work has to be to unsubscribe yourself to those early messages and start to replace those messages with current messages
Right.
that are true. In
And
fact,
that takes time. I
it
mean,
does.
time and effort, repeatedly,
Yeah.
working on you, or whoever
Yes.
that individual, working on themselves
Mhm.
to get rid of those thoughts that
Right.
aren't necessarily true,
Yes.
but they become learned behavior. um,
Mhm.
and it makes it really, really rough. I don't know if you've ever seen the movie Gifted Hands.
I don't think I have. I think I've heard of it.
You need to watch that movie.
Okay.
Gifted Hands is really a movie about Ben Carson,
Uh-huh.
and but it's an excellent movie along with what we're talking about,
Yeah.
because his mom was
Mhm.
raising he and his brother, and she did all that she could to try to make sure that her boys knew that they could do anything that anybody else could do, only they could do it better. And
Uh-huh.
she was an advocate on education and just trying to push the boys
Yeah.
into doing better. Well, one of the sons, struggled with an anger, and
Mhm.
the other had, another type of issue. But what I wanted to bring out more so in this was the fact that their mother, although she did all that she could,
Yeah.
um, she struggled with her
Mhm.
own inner, I would say probably self-esteem. She
Yeah.
she she didn't she couldn't read.
Mhm.
And so a lot of times when her kids would want her to help with homework, she would say, I don't have my glasses, baby. Read it to me. You
Mhm.
know. So she was able to hide that for a long
Yeah.
time. And
Mhm.
that was fine while they were babies and kids and growing up. But as they
Right.
got older, it was becoming harder for her to do
Mhm.
that. So you really have to watch that movie. It is so good.
I'm definitely check that out. But
Yes, every
I think
time.
you made that point. That's a very important point that I do point out to clients is that,
Yes.
your parents, our parents they're
Right.
dealing with their own stuff too
Mhm.
in the midst of trying to take care of us.
Right. And they haven't, like we're doing today, which is trying to bring this out about the
Mhm.
healing process, all the way around that has to happen within
Yeah.
all of us. Sometimes it happens later in life, and we
Mhm.
have to, go back and try to, curtail things. And sometimes, as you said, parenting, there is no guide. Even though
Yeah.
Dr. Spock wrote a book, I don't know how many years ago, he, each child is different.
Yes.
All of your children are different. You can't do the
Yes.
same thing with each one. And
Mhm.
I don't believe that 99% of the parents are not trying to do their best. Their
Mhm.
aim is to do all they can to reach their kids,
Yes.
as this lady did as well. But
Mhm.
it got so bad that the depression was on her, and the low self-esteem, that she couldn't deal with it anymore. She checked herself in for help, which is
Yeah.
a good thing,
Mhm. Yeah.
because she knew she needed help, and she,
Right.
got help to watch her sons while she did that.
Yeah.
And but it is such a good movie, and every time that I have seen it, I've gotten something different out
Different.
of it. But the fact that she, in the end, raised some good boys, but she worried that that would not happen
Right.
because of where she was, and she
Mhm.
had fought that inner feeling, or those inner demons that she dealt
Yeah.
with, um, and she just couldn't seem to break free from it. So she was willing at least to say, somebody, I need help. I can't get rid of these
Right.
thoughts. And
Mhm.
so this is why we're here today, because
Yeah,
people, we all need help. And I want
definitely.
those that are listening to know that there are people like Brandi, Brandi
Mhm.
Walker, who has her business by the name of Resilient Soul LLC. Brandi, if somebody wanted to reach out to you
Mhm.
and possibly solicit your help through counseling, how would
Yeah.
they do that?
So they could visit my website, which is resilientsoulllc.com.
Okay.
So there's a contact us tab right on there, and they can submit all their information through there. I'll receive that through an email and then reach out from there.
Mhm.
They can also contact us by phone, which is 302 eight two
Mhm.
eight 1273.
Okay. 302-828-1273.
3.
So
Yep.
it's resilientsoulllc.com is the website. If
Mhm.
you are in need of assistance or you need help, you want to talk to somebody about what you might be feeling, there's nothing wrong with getting help. We
Yeah.
all need help. We
All.
need each other. We all
Yeah.
need help. Brandi needs help. I need help. I mean, we
Indeed.
all have to have
Yeah.
somebody to talk to.
That's
And
right.
I want to encourage you that are listening as well. You may not be a licensed counselor, but
Mhm.
we are all counselors in one way or
Yes.
another. And somebody in your circle of influence may come to you and want to share what is going on with them.
Mhm.
I want you to be a person that is trustworthy of their parting their soul to you, and to guard it with your life and do your
Mhm.
best to guard them or guide them in the right direction. And, just be what you can. We got to be a support to one another.
Yeah.
And most of all, as I said, be trustworthy, because people need help and they need to know who they can go to. So, Brandi is one with expertise that is able to do this in a legal way. She
Mhm.
is a licensed professional in this area and has a heart and passion for helping individuals and families, as she said, to work at their highest potential in order to create a society that is fully capable of
Mhm.
withstanding life's challenges. Life challenges, which we all have.
Yeah.
So, Brandi, in the last few minutes that we have on this broadcast, I'm going to surrender the floor to you to say or share something on your heart to help maybe somebody who might be struggling in one of these areas today with a
Yeah.
final word.
Yes. So I encourage you, if you don't be afraid to reach out for help if you need it. We always tell our children, if you need help with something, ask for it. And we have to do the same thing as adults, teens. We have to ask for the help. And I also want to encourage you, when you're choosing a therapist, you have the say of who you want to work with. You can put your preferences out there, whether it's male, female, African American, Hispanic, Caucasian. You have that preference. And if you just are having some trouble reaching out and connecting to for services, you can reach here to us as well. Um, Most places will refer you to another provider if they don't have openings. So there's ways to get the help that you need. Have the courage to go deep down within yourself. If you find yourself struggling, have the courage to say, I can't do this alone. And you were never meant to do it alone. That's why we were made to help each other. And that's essentially what counseling is for. So you're not in this alone. We are here to help, and you have others that are around you to help. So I hope that you will find that courage within yourself to get the help that you need if you need it.
Well, Brandi, I thank you for again joining us today and sharing your expertise. It probably will not be the last time.
Of
Hopefully, we can
course.
do some more together
Yeah.
as this show evolves, because I have such a passion in my heart for total healing all the way around in
Yes.
our bodies, soul, mind, and our spirit. We have to get it
Mhm.
all in a healthy condition. So, as we close out this broadcast, I'm going to bring a short clip that has to do with wellness, and getting up from where you are and remembering that you have the power to change.
Falling in the mud is not the problem. Staying in the mud is. Don't lie there in regret. Respect yourself enough to get up. You have to contend for what is yours. It will not be given to you. The question is not, do you have the strength to fight? For the battle is the Lord's. The question is, do you have the will to fight? The mud can be clean, for God's blood covers all. So don't stay there in the mud. Get up and stand tall.